Let's talk about failure. It starts where it always starts, the idea. And let me take you back to the beginning.
There's a great bloke here in the studio I want you to meet. Lovely chap. He's brought Penelope in. Penelope's a push bike. I mean, that's Penelope. He's also got Isabel and 2 others. He keeps his bikes in his bedroom. He does. This is Josh, who I was telling you about. Lovely lad, Josh Parsons, young lad, 20 years old, heart as big as a bucket, frankly.
It started when I got this bike. Or at least this frame. It looked a bit more like this. When I got this bike, it was like utter freedom. Nowhere I couldn't go, nowhere too far. I started how everyone started, small. Just cycling 20 miles to work. Now, I know to some of you that seems like a lot, but what it's building up to is not. The century, the 100 miles, the ultimate goal for many cyclists. For me, it was no different. Although the first time I did it, I did 100 miles for 7 days straight. And after that, I knew I could go further. So I cycled to Wales, 120 miles. When I arrived at Wales, I turned around and cycled back, covering 240 miles in about 22 hours. And that is where the idea was born. Le joggle, whatever you want to call it. Land's End to John O'Groats, then back to Land's End again. 7 days, solo, on my own. Now the why. I needed a reason to make people think I'm not crazy. Charity it is then. It's acceptable to do crazy for charity. So I got to work, training every day, up and down hills, all day, every day. After work, before work, ride, 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 train, train, train. Promotion. I got into the newspapers, I got into the radio, I started raising money for charity. This is where Keep Smiling was born. I was doing this. There was no stopping me. I was motivated. There was nothing more I wanted. The fail. I arrived at Land's End. It was windy. It was rainy. Every road was flooded. It was awful. But that was not going to stop me. I was going to do this. I woke up bright and early. The rain, the wind, it was still here. It wasn't going to stop me. I set off. I pedalled. I kept pedaling. Kept my head down. I kept pedaling and pedaling and pedaling. Nothing was going to stop me. I was motivated. I wanted this more than anything that I had ever wanted up to this point. Next thing I know, darkness. I was plunged into darkness. It was still raining. It was still windy. It was damn right dangerous. The temperature dropped, the rain kept hammering me. I decided I need to stop. I was cold, I was wet, I was miserable. So I stopped at a service station and I made a very silly mistake. I brought a hot drink, I drank it. My body said, "F you Josh," I collapsed. That is the fail. Number 1. I was taken to hospital, an ambulance was called. I was released a little bit later, like 5 hours later, and I knew I had failed. I went home, I was down, but I still wanted this. So, a few months later, when the weather got better, I went for attempt number 2. I was so much more ready for this. Trained harder. I had a bit of experience from what had happened last time, and now this was the time that I was going to make it. Land's End to John O'Groats and back again in 7 days on my own. The morning of the second attempt arrived. I pedalled. It was beautiful weather. It was completely opposite of what the first attempt was. Maybe even a little bit too hot, but I was going for it. I was eating good, I was drinking lots. First day, 250 miles, bang on track. Second day, 250 miles, perfect. The third day came. I went through Scotland. I was in high spirits. This was it. I was going to reach the turnaround point at John O'Groats that day. But there was something I had been keeping back from everyone. I had been really struggling with my knees. They had been hurting from the second day. On that third day morning, my knees were hurting more than they ever had up to this point. But I just did what I did every morning. I put my head down, I ate some food, and I cycled. I kept on going. I kept on pedaling. Just a 5-hour ride until John O'Groats. I had to make a really horrible, hard decision. Just 5 hours away. I had to quit. I had to fail for the second time. I made this decision, sat on the side of the road crying. I did not want to make this decision, but I had to. My knees were shot. I could not go on any longer. Second time, I had to go back home without achieving what I wanted to achieve. What I set out to achieve, twice I failed. I felt like a failure. I was failing myself, I was failing everyone who supported me, and I was failing the charity that I chose. But without these two of my hardest failures in life, I would not have achieved so much more in my future. I would not have been able to cycle for 24 hours on a turbo trainer, raising over £600 for a homeless charity that is very close to my heart. I would not have been able to cycle the coast of Europe, from Calais to Seville, the entire coast on a fat bike. And I would not have been able to achieve my most recent and probably my most favourite challenge. I cycled the entire British coast. Without these failures, I would not have been able to achieve all of this. And this is what I want you to remember. Behind every successful achievement is a long trail of failure. But failure is a lesson learned, and a lesson learned can never be a failure. And until next time, guys, keep smiling. Peace out.